Okay, so from where we stopped in our last video, on this page I made some changes, which is reset.php. You can take a few minutes to look at it. You can also pull from GitHub and check some of those changes. I'll just explain one of them. It's on this page right here, on this part right here. Initially, we were just checking if token is set in the browser get request. However, we also need to check if it is set in the session because we are still going to be saving that token in session on process reset.php. So we are checking if it is not set here and it is not set here, then send them to this page. So that's all we are doing there. And then another change I made is on input page, on input tag. We are doing the same check here. If session is set, if token is set in session, then we use that. If otherwise, we use the one in get. Okay. We are doing normal checks for email, and then password will always reset. So let's begin filling this page with everything that we need. So I'm going to copy a lot of things from process register.php. I'll copy up to I'll copy up to this point initially, and then I'll come back. I'll copy these three because we'll be using one for token, and password and email is still there. We're using this for token. And next, I would also copy the session storage for these two and use this for token. Okay. Next up, we would copy this check and then close this up and say do actual reset things here. Let's add it as it will do. By the way, you can install, I think I mentioned it, you can install a to-do plugin. So everything you have to still go back to will be highlighted for you here. Okay, so this is fine. It works from our page, but we need to change this to reset.php. Now, in here, what we need to do is to check that the email is registered in tokens folder. After that, we check if the content of the registered token in our folder is the same as token. So we are basically going to be checking if their token exists in our tokens folder. If it does exist, we are going to look at the content of that token and see if it is the same as what they are supplying here. So let's begin doing that now. Let's begin doing that. Let's see what we can use from here. Yeah, we need to read the contents of a folder. We change this to tokens and change this to all user tokens. Of course, this is also going to change, and then this right here is also going to change. Okay, so that is fine. Next, we are going to carry out the loop and then change the variables. Change all user tokens here and change count all here. And then here is going to be current token file. Let's call it current token file. So we are checking if current token file is the same as this here. Then we are going to say now check if the token in the file in the current token file is the same as token. Okay. Otherwise, come back and throw an error message. We'll just copy the messages from here, and we'll send them to login page. We will not send them to reset page. We'll tell them password reset failed, token or email invalid, or expired. I mean that's too much for us. So we'll say token slash email invalid or expired. An expired token is a token that has been deleted because once we complete this process in here, we are going to delete that token completely. Okay, let's echo out something here. Okay, so this is working, proceed. So what we expect now is, let's reset this. Once I enter this, there is actually a reset request in our database for this particular user. I expect it to echo out this statement here. So let's send it, and I get this is working, proceed. However, there is another user, Mike, who doesn't have any request in our tokens table. So let's try to use that user. And I expect to get an error message, password reset failed, token blah 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 invalid. This will be error, not okay. So now we can go back to forget password, try to reset. Well, I don't need to do that. I've already sent a request, so I can just copy this and use here. Okay, if we do for Shay, if we do for patient, I get the correct response. So everything is working well now. The next step, let's just quickly do that. It shouldn't take time. Is to read the contents of this file, which we have already done before. If you remember, we did it under login, I think. Yes, we did it under login. So we'll just go there and copy that now. Process login, which is process login. We'll go into the file and get the content of the file. Okay, and then we'll do this and do this too. So let me paste this down here and say token content and use this and tokens. So right now we are reading the content of this token file, which we have already verified that it exists and it belongs to this user. And then we are going to say token object is converted to a JSON object. Let's print this out first before we do anything here. Let's print this out. Token object and just see what that produces. I'll refresh, it should still work. And that produces this particular token. So that's fine, it still works. But now we need to verify that this content here, how to do that, you can just check what we have done here. I can copy this and use it here and say token from DB and then use token object and say token. Okay, so we'll now check if token from DB is the same as the token provided up there, then do the password update. Echo user can update the password. Okay, this is what we want to do. So let's go back and try it out. I'm going to refresh and it says user can update the password. So let's go back. I need to go back and be sure that it works. We're going to try to use another email that does not that is not associated with this token, which is this token. This particular token is for, I believe it is for Shay. I think it's for patients. Yes, that token is for patients. Yes, so we'll try to do for Shay and then try new password. And it says password reset failed, token or email expired or invalid. So you see that works. If I go back to that page and try for patients, I expect to get the proper message that says you can now update the user password. So our last stop, once we have done all this, our last stop is to go into that file, the user file, and update their password, which means we need to read the content of this folder, look for this user, associated with this email and fetch everything inside, update the password, then we save it back into the folder. And finally, we will delete this token request right here. In the next video, we are going to be taking care of all those steps.